Hi, this is Dr. Steven with Outclick Magazine. Normally we talk about art, music, travel, but today we have a very special show. My life has been blessed by being able to work in church music as an organist, a pianist, handbell director, and a choir director. I also went to Asbury College, now Asbury University, and from Asbury Theological Seminary. Today's guest is a two-time Dove winner for Stop by the Church and Musical of the Year Make Us One, and also 11 Dove nominations. Her music has been recorded by people as famous as CeCe Winans, Lionel Harris, and the Brooklyn Tabernacle Choir. She's also an educator like me. She's an adjunct professor of songwriting and entrepreneurship in music business at Lee University in Tennessee, and she teaches at her alma mater, Spring University in Michigan. She serves on the advisory council at the School of Music at Liberty University, and she also teaches songwriting at LaGrange College. She received an honorary doctorate in 2019 from L. Bond College of Ministry in Apple Valley, California. I am so excited and honored to talk to gospel music legend Babbie Mason. Babbie, welcome to the program today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm happy to join you.
Thank you. I have followed your music for 30 plus years. You are such an inspiration. You're a joy to talk to. We have been chatting before the program. I was very nervous talking to you. I still am because of just all your amazing accomplishments. Tell us, what have you been doing this year? How is 2020 and the craziness of 2020? How have you been surviving, and what's been going on with you?
Well, first of all, I've been adjusting to being at home nonstop because I've been on the road pretty much nonstop for 36 years and, traveling, getting on and off of planes, spending most of my life at the Hampton Inn and the Marriott Courtyard. So for the past 6 months, I've been sleeping in my own house and cooking my own food. And that's like, wow, it's been a real adjustment to just be home. But I've really enjoyed it. It's been kind of, I think for the first 30 days of being home during the pandemic, I think I just slept because, after you spin and spin and spin and spin nonstop and you stop spinning. I don't know if you ever did that when you were a kid. You went out into your yard and you spun around and around and around and around, and then you stopped, but your world kept spinning, and then you kind of fell out. And so I think I did that physically after spinning for 36 years, and the world came to a stop and I kept spinning and I fell out. I think I just slept for 30 days straight before I woke up and thought, okay, this is not going anywhere. I need to revamp because life kept moving and I kept teaching. Everything just went immediately online. All of my teaching responsibilities, all of my mentoring and coaching, all of that immediately went online. But I think I've adjusted pretty well because I'm home. And I did some things this summer that I've never done. My husband is an avid gardener. He has a huge vegetable garden. And so this summer I had some fun in the garden. I picked blueberries. I made homemade pickles. I froze vegetables and canned vegetables and made soup and stocked the freezer full of food. And I've never been able to do that. So, there is an upside to being home, being with family, my immediate family. So I've been resting and adjusting, but I think, I'm adjusting pretty well.
Okay. How did you get started? I always go back when I talk to musicians. How did you get started in music and gospel music? What are some of your very first memories when you got started?
Well, I grew up a preacher's kid in Southern Michigan. I am from a little town called Jackson, Michigan, which is about 70 miles west of Detroit. And my father was a pastor. He and my mom are both deceased. They're in heaven now, but I grew up in the church. And once my parents realized that I could play 3 chords, I got hired as the church pianist because our church, you're a musician, so you would understand my lingo, my language. I started playing the piano by ear. My father's church the choir members didn't read any music. We had hymnals, but they basically read the lyrics from the hymnal. And so our church pianist moved away. I was about 9 years old. I had a vocabulary of about 3 or 4 chords in the key of C. My dad said, "Hey, Bab, today you're going to play the piano. And that led to a 20-year tenure as the church piano player until I got married. And when my parents realized that I had some musical propensities, I started taking piano lessons and studied formal music from age 6. And so I was able to learn how to play the music by ear, and I can read music, and that led to songwriting. But so music was born in me, I think, from my mother. My mother has a gorgeous voice. She and I did happen to record a couple of songs. And if you'll go to YouTube and look up the song God Will Open Up the Windows by Babbie Mason, you'll see a beautiful video of my mother and me singing this song that I wrote called God Will Open Up the Windows. You'll get a chance to see my mom. But I think I caught my love for music from my mother and my singing from my mom, and the opportunity to sharpen my skills by playing the piano all of those years in my daddy's church. And then I grew up in the 70s. So, I was heavily influenced by the music of Motown and singers like Aretha and Gladys and Martha Reeves and Carole King and all of those female singers who played the piano and wrote original songs. So I have a huge influence from my church, from my parents, from Motown, and then contemporary gospel music came along, and people like Andre Crouch and Danny Bell Hall became a huge gospel music influence. And studying classical music and things like that, I have a pretty much diverse background that's kind of culminated into who I am, but lots of wonderful influence there.
Yeah, that's one of the questions I ask too, is who are some of your influences? Mine, you and Sandy Patty, Larnell Harris, Steve Green, the staples of it. As an organist, of course, I have to mention Diane Bish. I live here in Fort Lauderdale, right down the street from Coral Ridge, where the Rafati is. Master Chorale South Florida performs at the church there where Diane Bish was. But some of the others, your influences are really amazing. I met Larnell Harris, believe it or not. I met him at the Bluegrass Airport picking up Diane Bish one day. They happened to be there at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah. They were here
that was a collision of greatness right there. I mean, Larnell Harris and Diane Bish, I used to watch her play the organ on television, and what a master. That's playing a pipe organ is like driving a spaceship. I mean, it's so many controls, and she could just make that organ just sing like an orchestra. So I really enjoyed watching her perform.
Yeah. Now, like me, you are an educator. Now, I used to be a math teacher. I was a nerd. I used to be a math teacher, but you're also an educator. You taught middle school and college. Tell us about your education. Why is that so important to you? And where did you get that? How does that turn your crank, Babbie?
Here again, like music, I think the love of teaching was just born in me. It's in my DNA. I've always loved school. I love school. I'm a constant, consistent, eternal student. I remember my very first Christmas present that I got. Well, not my very first, but I think it was like my first doll. She was a Susie Smart, and she came with a desk and a piece of chalk and a blackboard on an easel, and she was dressed in a school uniform, and she sang and she did math and she spelled, and I would sit that doll in her desk, and I would teach her. We played school in the garage. And my father was an educator. My father was a pastor, but he had a lot of different vocations. He taught I taught a class at the local college. He was a chaplain at the prison that was not far from our home. So, education is just in our bloodstream. I'm in the middle of 5 siblings. 3 of us are educators. So okay. we love information and love sharing what we think we know about what we think we know about. So plus I just love learning. Even though I am, $59.95 plus tax, shipping, and handling, I still feel like there's a lot that I don't know. And I love exploring. And that's why I do things like internet radio, and I coach and I teach, because I love stretching myself, even though some days it's an immense learning challenge and a learning curve. But once I get it, it's like, okay, yeah, I can do this. And this is why I encourage my counterparts who are my age, you can do all things through Christ who gives you the strength. There's no mountain that you can't climb. If you need help, find somebody who can help you. If you have a question, find somebody who can give you the answer. Go look, the internet, all you got to do is talk into your phone and the answer is there. Now you'll have to research whether the answer is valid, but at least you have access now to more information than ever before. So that's why I love teaching, because I love to see the lights come on. When a student, when I explain it in a way that the student can grasp it, and they take that information and then they understand it, and the lights come on, and then they can apply it to their own life, and it makes them better, well, then that's what, that is where the love of education is gratified, when what you're teaching makes somebody else's life better. And then you can see them advance, and you can see them use their gifts and their talents to make somebody else better. And then therefore we make the world better. And I've taught long enough where I can see some of my students who are now educators, or who are now performing, and they're writing songs, or they're teaching students, or they're working in in their field of education, or their field of their area where they love, or they're gifted in that area. And I see them, and they come back to tell me, you helped me to make my life better. It's worth it. It's so worth it. And so that's why I continue to teach after all these years. It's very rewarding.
I remember at Asbury that all of the faculty were very dedicated, but the music faculty were even more dedicated. It was so much more time between the lessons and then going to the students' performances. And it's such a vested interest of taking, that interest in the students and going to their performances and seeing them get up on stage and perform like that. I mean, how fascinating, how amazing would it be to get to study under the Babbie Mason? But I know that at Asbury, one of the things they emphasized was that teaching is such a ministry and such an outlet and a way to minister to students, whether you're in the public school sector or private school sector or higher ed. That was one of the wonderful things I enjoyed about the teacher ed program at Asbury, was how they taught us to blend that together and really minister to the students. I'm sure your students really enjoy that with you.
I hope so. And a lot of them come back and tell me that it does make a difference. Yes.
Yeah. One of the questions I have on my list are, my favorite hymns are Praise the Lord the Almighty, the Heiferdal tune, which is Come Thou Long Expected Jesus, and a couple others, and Oh for a Thousand Tongues. I'm curious, what are some of your favorite hymns?
Well, I remember my father walking through the house, or as he might lead out and singing in the church, he would always default to this hymn, I Love to Tell the Story. That was one of his favorite hymns. So whenever, I don't hear it sung much nowadays, in the days of, worship music and what have you, but I do love that hymn, I Love to Tell the Story. And then my mother actually played the organ. She took organ lessons, and back in the day when you could go to your local organ store, where they sold piano and organs, they would always have somebody there teaching lessons. And she went every week to her organ lesson, and she didn't play very much in public, but I think it just gave her a lot of enjoyment to sit down at the house and play. And one of the songs that she would always gravitate to was What a Friend We Have in Jesus, in the key of F. And that was matter of fact, when I first started taking piano lessons, my very first piano teacher taught my first method book was the Baptist Standard Hymnal. So I didn't start taking lessons from like John Thompson until I got another piano teacher who used that method. But my very first piano book was the Baptist Standard Hymnal. And so one of my very first assignments was What a Friend We Have in Jesus and Jesus Keep Me Near the Cross. And those two hymns were my mother's favorite because she played them all the time.
Yeah, my dad's favorite is the Old Rugged Cross. Yeah. Now you've got a lot of great songs, but one of the reasons, and I followed your music for 30 years plus, but one of the reasons why I reached out to you to talk to you today is because 2020, everyone had their challenges this year. But there were, when the music shut down, the churches shut down, and all of that, that was one of the challenges for me. And I found YouTube Premium Music, and God put some songs out there for me. There was about 5 that really ministered to me in a way, and I've shared this with you before we started, that ministered to me in a way just was absolutely phenomenal. And it was your song, All Rise. And I'm going to have Arthur put up there. There is a version of you singing it with Bill Gaither. He hands you the mic. And for those who don't know the song, it is about going into the throne, and you kneel, and God says you're going to all rise, and you're going to all rise with the angels. And I'll let you talk about the song too. But for me, the challenges that I went through, that song to me came to me and said, whatever challenges we go through, it doesn't matter, because there's going to be a time and a place when we're going to walk before the throne, and we're all going to rise, and everything that we endured or went through or gained or lost isn't going to matter anymore, and we're all going to rise before the throne. And I've listened to that song probably 1,000 times. And this is where Bill Gaither hands you the mic. And so tell us about this song. I've told you kind of what it means to me, but tell us if you remember singing this at this particular time, or just a song in general. But this is amazing to hear you sing this.
Well, of course, I love singing with Bill Gaither. I mean, that's a very memorable occasion. I've sung quite a few of those on several of those videos. But the story behind All Rise is kind of an interesting story in that I quit my job as a school teacher. I taught middle high school music a lot of years. And as music began, or singing, performing live began to encroach upon my day job as a school teacher, then I got enough courage to quit my job and launch on into singing in music ministry as a full-time vocation. And the year that I quit, I went out to a music conference in Colorado called the Christian Artist Music Seminar in the Rockies. And they had a competition out there, and I entered a song into the competition. And there's a panel of adjudicators that score your song on the lyric and the melody. And the song that I had submitted at that year, they said it was trite. The lyrics were trite. The lyrics were overused, and they just ripped my song to shreds. It was like that saying, "Babbie, we love you. Baby is ugly." That's how I felt. And they just finished ripping my song to shred. But during that week, they had a lot of workshops. And I sat in on a songwriting workshop. For the first time, Stephen, I realized that songwriting is a craft. It's not just inspiration, but it's perspiration as well. You have to hone it and work the lyric and get an idea and find a title and a rhyme scheme and a form and all these things that go into writing a better song. And right after leaving that competition, I came in third in the vocal competition. So I walked away with the third place trophy. And I felt pretty good about that while I was out there on that mountain in that conference. But on the way home, the thought of losing just began to sink in. And I felt like a loser because I'm not a third place kind of person. You know, I felt like if you don't win first place, then you're last place. There's no place for mediocrity. Third place just wasn't good enough for me. And I began to beat myself up and began to wonder where was I lacking? Well, about 2 weeks after that conference, I was walking through my house, and the words to All Rise just kind of were served on a holy silver platter. And I sat down, and in just a few minutes, the song was written. And I went back out there the next year, entered the song into the competition again, and it won first place. As a matter of fact, Sandy Patty, she was the first person to sing the song, because every year when they have the competition, they always have a artist, industry level singer to sing the winning song. And Sandy Patty sang All Rise in the night that it was announced the first place prize. Now, Sandy Patty was the singer that sang it.
I haven't heard her sing it. I didn't know that about that. So I'm going to have to research that and see if I can find
she never recorded it.
Okay.
She never recorded it, but she sang it that night when they announced the winner in their competition. So she never recorded it on a record, but she recorded it because it was the winning song that night with the Continental Choir and Orchestra, and it was a moment for me. But the beautiful thing is the song began to kind of take off, and I recorded the song, and Scott Wesley Brown recorded the song, and it began to start making an impact, and it's become a signature song for me. But when I wrote the song, I was reminded of the book of the Revelation, chapter 7. And if I can get my phone open here, I'll read the passage to you. And it says this, beginning chapter 7, verse 9. After this, I looked, and there before me was a great multitude that no one could count, from every nation, tribe, people, and language, standing before the throne and before the Lamb. They were wearing white robes and holding palm branches in their hand, and they cried out in a loud voice, "Salvation belongs to our God who sits on the throne and to the Lamb." And all the angels were standing around the throne and around the elders and the four living creatures. And they fell down on their faces before the throne and worshiped God, saying, "Amen. Praise and glory and wisdom and thanks and honor and power and strength be to our God forever and ever. Amen." And so what it shows is that worship is, there's power and victory in worship, and that worship is the act of rising up and bowing down and rising up. And that has carried me through a lot of years. So here's the point, that even out of that, what felt like a great loss, after I came in third place during that competition. Out of that loss came something that was beautiful, this song. And I wonder, if I never gone to that competition and if I never came in third place, would I ever have written the song? You know, so out of that, what felt like a great loss, what came out of coming in third place, what came out of a low place, is a song that has really been a signature song that has carried me through the length of my career as a singer. So I thank God for it, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
Well, it's phenomenal. Like I said, and there's a place in the song when it gets to, and I started over again. It gets to that place, and I started over again and started over again. And it's just that thought of all rise. We're going to walk in, and we're all going to be told all rise. And it's there's a feeling about it that I just can't describe. And so it's phenomenal. I'm glad you had that experience, because it's, for me, it's whatever loss there is, there's going to be something phenomenal that's going to come out of it.
Well, that shows us that through Christ, we always have victory. You know, to stand, when we stand in a place of victory. We are overcomers through Christ who loves us, is what the Bible says. So that's why I think there's nothing more beautiful to see a whole room full of people, but sometimes by the thousands. I've sung it at Women of Faith and Billy Graham and Bill Gaither, and I've even sung it at Coral Gables Church down there in South Florida. Coral Ridge, and it's just phenomenal to see people standing all over the room, recognizing the presence of God.
And I also noticed at one point in the video, I believe it's Blair from The Facts of Life, Lisa Wiltshire, who is in the audience. She's very vocal about her faith, and you have worked with Lisa on some projects. We were chatting about that. I think that's fascinating if you stop it there. So you've got to work with Lisa on some projects.
Yes, because I am a singer and a worship leader and a speaker. I've got a chance to speak at and sing at many, many, many women's conferences. And Lisa Welchel is a women's conference speaker. So yes, we have spoken on the same platform at Women of Faith and all over the country. We've shared the same platform at women's conferences everywhere. So we've been on the platform many times together.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. Well, thank you for that. I've got a couple surprises for you. I dug out, if Arthur will, there she is again. That's him. So if Arthur will pull us back, I found, do you remember these?
Yes, of course.
I've carried these. I also have Standing in the Gap.
Standing in the Gap.
I have Standing in the Gap. I have Heritage of Faith. This one's really going to date both you and I. Do you remember this one? With All My Heart.
With All My Heart.
This one is 30. It's cracked and everything. I've carried this. This one's 30 years old, 1990. But I've carried. I think the CD is still. So for the younger people listening, this is a CD. But I've
That's
listened.
a
I've
CD,
carried these.
like a granddaddy record.
Yep. There's some phenomenal. But these are some of the cherished treasures of the years that I have carried. And these songs that I remember listening to these in the car and everything else. But I've carried these for years. So I wanted to. That's my surprise. Was my held on to these.
That's so cool because that chronicles, you know, my life, a whole season of my life when I was recording with Word Records, and With All My Heart was the first CD, and then a World of Difference and Standing in the Gap. Well, no, With All My Heart was not the first. With All My Heart was the second. The first one that came out was Carry On. Carry On was a bright yellow CD and with big hair, and I'll not forget that. But those are some of the best songs that I've written. Standing in the Gap in all of its glory, each one. Right Now Is the Right Time. My duet with Michael English in all of his glory. One of the best songs I've written are on those CDs.
And when you can't trace his hand, trust his heart. That's another good one of yours. Yes. I want to talk. So I feel like we could talk all day about that, but I know you've got things to do. I do want to mention you have a radio station. You've got a million projects. You got a radio station. I'm gonna have Arthur pull that up. Tell us about your radio station, how that came about, how you conceived that, what's going on with your radio station, Babbie.
Well, when I was nearing, I told you I was $59.95 plus tax, shipping, and handling, and when I was entering into that season in my life where some people consider retirement, that's not in my foreseeable future. I don't really want to retire. I want to refire, and I want to use my gifts and talents for the Lord until I breathe my last. I feel like I have a lot of living left to do. I've got a lot of gifts and talents I want to use for the Lord, a lot of people whose lives I want to impact. So I asked the Lord, how could I perpetuate ministry when there was a time, this was years ago, this was 7 or 8 years ago, when I asked the Lord, how can I perpetuate ministry when I'm not, wanting to travel as much or not able to travel as much, not even knowing that COVID was on the horizon. But I wanted people to know that I teach and train and I mentor and I coach singers, songwriters, and authors. And I have a workshop, an annual workshop where I teach singers, songwriters, and authors how to better their craft and use their ministries and their gifts and talents for the Lord and to encourage people. And I thought I heard the Lord say internet radio. And I created BabbieMasonRadio.com as a platform where these people who you see their pictures, that must be a live shot because those pictures are scrolling across the screen. All of those people are independent singers, songwriters, and authors whose works are displayed and celebrated on the radio station. So they're singers, they're writers, they write wonderful music. And when you log on to BabbieMasonRadio.com, you'll hear a great majority of the songs that I've written across the years, the stories behind the songs, how the songs were written. But you'll also be introduced to great people who have written great music and they have wonderful stories to tell, and you'll be introduced to them as well on BabbieMasonRadio.com. So it's a really cool platform where if you're a singer, songwriter, or if you're an author and you want to celebrate your book, you want to celebrate your music, check me out. You can email me at Babbie@Babbie.com or go to my official website at Babbie.com or go to BabbieMasonRadio.com and click contact and let me know. You can send your music to me at the station, and if it clears our checking system, then you can get your music played on the station. So it's a wonderful, a great place for independent singers and songwriters and authors to celebrate their work and their music and their stories.
Okay, phenomenal. You've also got a TV show, Babbie's House. So you've got no shortage of projects right now. Babbie's House, if you want to tell us about Babbie's House, so what's going on at Babbie's House?
I do. Some of these things, these projects like Babbie Mason Radio is something that I launched myself. As a way to continue ministry, as a way to help others to perpetuate their ministries. But Babbie's Babbie's House, the TV show, kind of happened. I didn't even really see it coming. I was a guest on a local television station. They had just launched their station in the Atlanta area, and I was a guest on one of their evening shows. And the producer said, for our licensing, we need some community type programming. Would you be interested in hosting a television show?
Okay.
And I'd never hosted a show on television. Of course, I'd been interviewed bunches of times, and I don't have any problem, talking and carrying on a conversation. And so I said, sure, I'll do it. That was 20 years ago, and I'm still hosting Babbie's House. And Babbie's House we tape the show at WATC TV 57 in Atlanta, but it's syndicated all over the world on a lot of different cable stations. It's on the NRB TV network. If you have Direct TV, it's on the NRB network channel. It's also online. It streams online, so you can go to WATC.TV and watch the station live as it's on the air. My show comes on every day at 4:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'm on every day on that station. You can just go to the internet and log on. It's like the word watch, but without the H, WATC.TV.
Okay, that's fascinating. So my little Dr. Steven show, but a whole lot fancier for you. And then you've got a Songwriters Conference coming up Saturday, April 24th. 2021, your virtual conference. So tell us about your conference. You've got that coming as well. People want to get involved with that.
Yes. Well, this all goes, Stephen, this all boils down to the fact that I'm a born teacher.
Yeah.
And I love sharing information that helps people fulfill their dreams and God's plan for their life. And if I can teach and in my teaching help to make you better, then that's what I want to do. And so for years, probably for 35 years or so, we have hosted a conference called the Inner Circle. And this year we hosted the Inner Circle, and it was because of COVID, it was totally virtual. And in April, it will also be virtual. And our upcoming conference is April 24 for singers. And for songwriting. It's a songwriting conference because one version of the conference is for singers because we help them to launch their ministries and give them tools to perpetuate ministry online. And then one version is for songwriters. And so this upcoming conference, April 24 of 2021, will be just for songwriters. And you can get more information about the Inner Circle at Babbie.com. Or you can register there by clicking on that link when you go to the site to Babbie.com. And this year we are also featuring a competition. So you can learn about songwriting, but you can also enter your original song if you want. And the beautiful thing is that the internet is global. So if your song ends up on Babbie Mason radio, it can be played for the entire planet, which is kind of fun. And we get feedback all the time from listeners who say, I'm listening to your station. I love this song. Who is this artist? So if this is the day where independent artists can really shine. And that's what we're we're a part of that chain of people, radio stations, TV, internet, to help independent artists go to the next level.
It's amazing to hear how your ministry is not just singing, but it's teaching and conferences and the TV show and the radio. It's how your ministry has converged and diverged. And it's just such a great example of listening to God and hearing the call and standing in the gap and going to all of these different ways and using technology and opportunities and just being open to God's plan in so many different ways. It's just fascinating. I really appreciate you talking to us. This has been fascinating and getting to share at least my personal experience with you and to say thank you for your ministry and thank you for all that you've done over the years and the ways that you have reached out and ministered to people.
Well, thank you for letting me share my heart and my experiences and my joy for what I do. I heard somebody say, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. That's partly true. What I do is work. And sometimes when the internet isn't working right and the station goes down, or there's some kind of technical snafu and I want to pull out all my hair, it can be very frustrating. But at the bottom line, on the bottom line is I really love what I do. And three things, I'll leave you with this. When you find your sweet spot in life, when you really begin to discover why you were born, and you can use your gifts and talents for the Lord to impact people, I think three things will happen. Number one, when you find your sweet spot and you begin to use your gifts and talents, three things will happen. One is you'll give glory to God. God will get the glory. If you have a heart where you really want to, make God look good, number one, you'll give God glory. Number two, you'll bless a lot of people. I get mail, email, phone calls, text messages from people whose lives are impacted by what we do. And three, you'll find a lot of joy. You'll find a lot of joy in doing what it is you do. And in that, you get gratification. Plus, you might be able to make a little bit of something to put some gas in your car and drive through Chick-fil-A. So there are a lot of benefits finding that sweet spot, and that's what the conference is all about. It's helping you discover why you were born, who you are, your gifts, your talents, and how you can use those gifts to make God look good. That's what we're all about.
Yeah. And I've experienced that in my own journey. I've gotten to do so many different things, whether it's be organist at a church or a math teacher or working in medical education or now the magazine. My life has taken so many different paths and roads, but I've learned that's part of the fascination and part of the unveiling is that what is next? And it may be completely different than it was yesterday, but it's the people, as you said, it's the people that I've gotten to meet and the people that I've gotten to work with. And now working with the magazine, we have the most wonderful people and clients to work with, and getting to talk to people that I never dreamed I would get to talk to and spend some time with and get to hear their stories. That's really been the most enriching and fulfilling part for me, is getting to sit down and talk to people and people like you. So thank you for that word, Babbie.
Absolutely, Stephen. Remember, as long as you have a pulse, you have a purpose.
Thank you.
As long as you have a pulse, you have a purpose.
Have a purpose. The last question, you already answered I always ask, do you have any encouraging words for people? You've already answered that question. So that's my always question. You've got to jump ahead of me. Good for you. The other one is there anything you wanted to cover that I didn't ask?
Oh my goodness. I mean, there are a lot of things we can cover because not only do I sing and write, I write books. And I think in one of your questions, you mentioned This I Know For Sure book and Bible study. But I have lots of books. I have my most recent book is called Fully Qualified. And I didn't grab a copy of that off the shelf because you mentioned This I Know For Sure. So I grabbed that. But you can go to my website at babbie.com and grab a copy of Fully Qualified. I wrote that book because I work with singers, songwriters, and authors. And this is a book with a lot of the tools, the techniques, the principles that I've developed along the way in my coaching to help singers, songwriters, and authors, number one, find their sweet spot. Number two, use their gifts and talents for the Lord. So the name of the book is called Fully Qualified. And I'm actually writing a songwriting book right now called Songwriting Made Easier. So if you're a creative person and you want to learn more about using your songwriting, your singing, your book writing, and you want to be better, because these are skills. These are developed skills, and it really helps kind of have somebody over your shoulder to kind of say, honey, that's a great idea. That's a really good idea. But over here, you might want to tweak that a little bit. You need somebody just kind of over your shoulder to kind of help you. And if I can be that person or direct you to that person, you kind of need to be in the water with other creatives, because as the Bible says, iron sharpens iron. And when you get in the water with people who have honed their skill, they can pull you up and help you develop those skills. And that's what we're all about.
All right, I'm gonna have Arthur pull up your website. I know your book. You've got a workbook, a book, and the CD is all on there. If Arthur can pull that up here in the last minute, but you've got a lot of great resources. I love this picture of you there in the church. But then this is the website. It's got Inner Circle on there, Babbie's House, all of your dates, your media, everything on there. I think maybe these CDs might be out of print, so I'm gonna sell these for. These are gonna be on. No, these are my cherished copies. I'm just kidding, but we've got you've got a lot of your resources on there. So Arthur's going to put up your
And if you
website.
listen to music, you can go to iTunes or you can go to my website. I still sell CDs because a lot of people still buy CDs, or you can get digital downloads from my website. So if there's music out there that you can't find, come to my website and we'll help you find anything that you want.
Yes. And Babbie answers her email. She's answered mine too. She actually answers her email. She listens to her followers. We've got your website up there. We've got your radio website up there for you, Babbie. And Arthur's going to put up your Facebook. You've got Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Carrier Pigeon, as I say, and all of the famous social media.
Message in a bottle, paper airplane.
Two tin cans and a string or whatever it takes. So yes, absolutely.
That's right. Whatever method or mode, we got it.
You got it. Well, it has been so much fun talking to you. I've just really appreciated your time and getting to know you even more so, and sharing your ministry. So thank you for joining us. If you want to stay updated on us, our website is outclick.com, or you can text OCQ 22828 to stay updated on us. And again, Babbie Mason, it's been an absolute joy, honor, and privilege. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, my friend. God bless you.
All right. God bless you too. Everyone, stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon.